Hello, fellow wargamers and history buffs. I am here sharing some thoughts about my experience at Consim and the La Bataille de Mont Saint Jean game that we played there over the course of about 3.5 days. The other thing is that I'm trying to make sure that I'm testing everything so that I've had some technical issues which have prevented me from doing live streams for the last couple of weeks. So this is the first time that it looks like it's working, and I see that Stigler is sending greetings. Hello, Stigler. I hope all is well with you. Um, one of your friends or compatriots, Mitch from Kansas City, has joined our Austerlitz game, and so he says I guess he also does some vassal editing, and so um, we're looking forward to having him maybe help out with some of the La Bataille stuff. So I hope that you're doing well. Um, yeah, all is peachy. Good, good, good. Up in beautiful Portland. So I'm down here in sunny Southern California, and everything is peachy here too. But been very busy. The fencing team at the high school has started competitions, so just about every weekend I've got something going on with the competitions, and so I haven't had a chance to do much as far as actually editing and putting anything up. Although I've got a number of things that are in development, so looking forward to that. Wanted to talk a little bit about the Mont Saint Jean game. I've got some images from that, and I thought I would share that with you as well as a few observations. Um, Stigler, I love this here. Well, beautiful is a stretch. Lots of short, sharp downpours in the last few days. Well, that's what keeps it green up there. Down here in Southern California, where we're praying for rain half the time because it's so dry. But Portland, that's what keeps it very lovely up there most of the time, nice and green. Um, but carrying on with the game itself, I was playing the Allies, and there were two gentlemen that were playing the French. And so let's take a look here and see. Boop. All right, so here we are. So Rick White, who's on the left, he was playing the French right wing, basically the first corps and the guard, and then Mike Hawkins in the center. He was playing Labau's corps and the second corps. And these gentlemen, I played with them last year, same battle. They'd both been in different positions. They were both playing the French, but they'd swapped. They were on the other side of the map when we'd played it previously. So here's a couple of sort of starting positions. Here's the French Second Corps. They moved to sneak around the west side of Hougoumont. And here you can see sort of the initial disposition of the forces, the Allied forces that were there. Now, we were playing with the 5th edition rules, so that's got the chit pull mechanism and things like that. And there's a limited number of maneuver units and things like that that you can do. So both players have to kind of deal with what they're going to activate and what's going to be the priority for them. Here's a picture of what's kind of going on that same side of the map behind Hougoumont, and we can see the sort of the ridge line here going off towards the right upper corner of the picture, and here we can see where different elements of the second corps will be set up once their corps is activated. Here you can see the 6th Corps and the Guard kind of there behind La Belle Alliance on the road up to Brussels. And here we can see the 1st Corps deployed off to the east of the main Brussels highway. Here we see stuff moving up. So Labau's Corps, as I said, they moved the 2nd Corps to the west of Hougoumont. They moved Labau's corps up to and to attack La Haye Sainte, and then they sent the guard off towards the east side of the Brussels highway. Basically, the guard was attacking in the space where the 1st Corps made its historic attack, and then they sent the the first corps. Let's see if I got a picture of them here somewhere. Yep, here they go. They sent the first corps off to the east to basically attack Papelet and Fischer Mont and to intercept the Prussians as they were coming on to the map. Let's see here. There we go. All right, here you can see the Second Corps moving around in force, and I did not hold on to or contest the grounds of Hougoumont. They are really, it's very hard to hold it, and when I played the game with them last year, I sent British units out into this area, basically between the historic ridge line and the chateau buildings, and to try to support that. And then they were getting hit on both sides by cavalry and artillery and infantry. So it's not really good ground for the British to try to contest in this game. Now, if the French are only attacking very weakly with one division, well, then maybe that's a different story, and that's kind of what happened historically. But if you've got an active French player, they can just envelop the whole. They can envelop the entire anything that you've got there. So I just parked the biggest unit that was there in the chateau itself, and left, pulled everybody else back to try to save them for better opportunities. Here you can see what's going on behind the chateau. Here you can see then the different units that are part of the Second Corps. They're deployed now on the map and ready to engage the French coming up on that side. And here we can see the British center west of the Brussels Highway. These are units that are prone to basically avoid artillery hits, and various King's German Legion units that are back here behind the main crossroad. I'd put a big unit, militia unit, from the Dutch Belgians into La Haye Sainte to try to hold that. And then the King's German Legion light units are out there in the orchard where they can do something a little bit more. Stigler's got a question. In this game, doesn't the loss of Hougoumont cause a lowering of Allied morale? No, it does not. In the original version of Mont Saint-Jean, as well as in this one, the objectives are entirely based on doing damage to the opposing army. So for the French, you're trying to get the British on a level and not have your own units on a level. And for the British, you're just trying to stay on the map. So holding on to any of these different, geographic locations, there's no meaning to it. There's nothing to it other than just whatever benefit you can get from a tactical point of view. So there's nothing from a where you're going to be penalized if you have to give up one of those. And it's just as well because it's really hard to try to defend it. There's just the French can kind of swamp it on all sides, and anything you've got there is then going to get destroyed. And that's what happened the last time when I tried to defend Hougoumont in a more historically vigorous way. Here, let's see. We've got the British and Allied dispositions out on the east side of the Brussels Highway, and I left the Dutch Belgians in the same spot that Wellington did, basically kind of as a breakwater for any attack that might come. And so one of the things that I wanted to share with everybody is that despite the fact that they don't have the best morale in the universe, they actually put up a decent fight. I'd left them there, and the old guard, and the middle guard, and the young guard all attacked through this area here. And so even though they were overrunning and doing a lot of damage to these Dutch militia units, in the process they were taking incremental losses. And so over time, there were 3 middle guard battalions that were completely eliminated by the time we we called the game at about 4:40. Um, and then a whole bunch more were just all shot to pieces, and they hadn't even come to grips yet with the with the British. Everybody else was kind of acting as a speed bump, and so the Hanoverians, they did a decent job slowing down the guard. And so you're thinking like, well, these guys are just landwehr, they're just militia. Well, no, if they're in good ground, and you have a decent morale check that you're able to pass, they can put up a fight as well as anybody else. And they're just there to basically ding away at anybody who's attacking and to act as I said, as a speed bump to slow down and wear down the French before they come up and hit the main British line. And that's exactly the purpose that they served and what they did. See, Stigler has, interesting, with Wellington's victory, I always wonder if it was a worthwhile gambit for the French to possibly ignore Hougoumont in favor of hitting the British line despite the morale implications. Yeah, I think I played Wellington's victory maybe 40 years ago. So to be honest with you, I can't remember anything about it other than everybody was complaining about the skirmishers. And so I know that eventually they corrected that in some previous publication or subsequent publication, but I know that was the big complaint back in the day. So lesson number one, these Allied units, while they look like they're garbage, they actually can function well, and they did function well for the purposes of our play. They absorbed a lot of damage, and they dished out a fair amount of damage, even to the guard, before they finally got ground up and chased away. Here we can see the First Corps diverting off and heading off towards the east side of the map. And here we can see much later in the day. Here's the Prussians. They've come down in force, and while we had a few issues where the French have a lot of cavalry over here, the Prussians just have a ton of infantry. They've got some pretty good cavalry too, and so they were able to deal with this and start to really put some pressure on the French on this side of the map. Now here is a picture from rather late in the day. This is probably the 4 o'clock turn, where you can see the different guard, grenadiers, old guard, etc., doing assaults and attacking these different militia units. And I brought in the Brunswegers, etc. And so they did some damage to them. But as I said, they took some damage. Here you can see a picture of out of command, right? So after this big attack happens, in the process of it, the divisional commander for the middle guard was wounded. The divisional commander for the young guard was wounded. And now suddenly those two divisions are out of command until he was able to send replacement leaders over. And so it set him back for at least a turn or two doing this. With one of his divisions of the First Corps, they lost 3 leaders getting shot and wounded. And so you'd have an entire division that suddenly is out of command until you can get somebody over there. And then the next guy got wounded and the next guy. So this one poor, benighted division, it was not a very lucky position or command to have. But this is there where you don't want to send your divisional commanders in unless it's absolutely critical, because if they get killed or wounded, you're out of luck. And so this is what happened. And so basically 2/3 of the guard in the middle of this attack got stopped cold because of that. The other thing that you'll notice is that we weren't playing with the ammunition wagons. So the French players, when we played last year, we had the ammunition wagons for both the Allies and for the French. And given that it's time movement, the French thought that moving the ammunition wagons was kind of cutting into their time. Plus, it clutters up the map and clutters up the battlefield. And we did find that there was at no point in time at all when we were playing with the ammunition wagons did the French ever even risk possibly running out of ammunition. So we found that it was pretty much, a waste of time to keep track of ammunition for the French. So as the Allied player, I always like it if the French play with the ammunition wagons because then it clutters up the battlefield and it cuts into their time. But I made a deal with like, okay, if you guys don't have ammunition wagons, then I don't have any ammunition wagons. And that means then I don't run out of ammunition, which is what would happen if we played with ammunition wagons. The Allies are not able to resupply their ammunition wagons. And so after 6 shots, poof, they're done for the day. And so it was a trade-off. And so when you're playing with other folks, you guys can come to some sort of equitable arrangement and do something like this. And if everyone's happy, then everyone's happy, and that's what we ended up doing. Here, then you can see where are we at? Yeah, the Second Corps is pushing against the British line here, sort of north and west of Hougoumont. So we've got sort of a stalemate. And instead of defending at Hougoumont itself, I was defending these woods and sunken roads that are behind it. This made for better terrain for the British on the whole. You're not quite as exposed as you are way out there by Hougoumont. And it's harder for the French to come and kind of get you and dig you out. So we kind of had a stalemate here. We had some different cavalry events happening down here. This is probably a more balanced sort of cavalry area than what we'd had over on the other side of the map. Oh, let's see here. William is saying, hello. Yes, William, I'm glad to be back too. We had some technical issues, so I'm glad that I'm able to live stream again. And thanks. And I hope that everything's well in beautiful Kitchener, Ontario. Stigler says, yeah, the clouds of skirmishers. Yes, that was an issue. Here, Stigler says, interesting rules negotiation. In my view, it's the time movement that's the problem, and that should be 86th instead of the ammo wagons. Well, the time movement actually, we did not strictly enforce that, but it certainly does make everybody focus a little bit more. So just to let you know, on the other side of the Consim ballroom or space where we were, there's another group of guys playing Mont Saint Jean, and they were playing with the regs, and they spent 6 days, almost 7 days playing, and they got to the same turn that we did when we ended. Actually, maybe they were at the 420 turn and we ended at the 440 turn. So they spent a lot more time doing it. And so part of it is just the regs is a more crunchy system, but also if you don't have a timed movement thing, a lot of times people are going to take a lot of time thinking about moving, trying to get the perfect move out of it. So actually the time movement really works well. With this system, it's a nice balance between the two because you do have to have the command control mechanism, which is good. But then by having the time movement, you're able then to focus. And having two players play the French worked out well. They each had about a corps and a half each. And then I played both the British Allied Army and the Prussian Army. So this brings up the second point. I talked with Ed Wimble, oh gosh, maybe this was 6 months or more ago, after Buckeye, and he had said that he suggested that if you play this, you should have the when the Prussian maneuver unit chit gets pulled, the Prussians go separately from the Allies. So you don't do a combined Prussian and British activation across the whole line because the Prussians and the British shouldn't be able to coordinate together. So when the Prussian shit came up, then I did everything for the Prussians separately then from what I was doing for the British. And then when the British chit came up, they did their own. So it worked out me being one person, playing both armies, it worked out fairly well. And the time movement wasn't really a problem. Let's see, William asks, aren't logistics, especially resupply of ammunition, an important part of any historical simulation? So, yes, but the way the rules are currently written, it was nearly impossible for the French to run out of ammunition. So, um, you'd have to not be able to roll a six um, over the course of six turns. That's not likely to happen. And even if that happens, then you've got other wagons you can draw supply from. So even if the one wagon that you had wasn't, you just were completely unlucky. Actually, it's a five and a six. So if you couldn't roll a five and a six over the course of six turns, um, then that would be the only time that one single wagon would run out of anything. So that's why it was kind of pointless to do it. I'm not a huge fan of the ammunition rules anyway, but that's another story. All right, heading back to pictures from an exhibition. So here we've got some more pictures. Here we are over on this other side of the map. Um, the French had captured La Haye Sainte kind of late in the day, and I had actually put some stuff out pressuring them in this area in the middle. So Labau's corps is fairly weak, and so I actually put some heavy cavalry and some light cavalry and some of these King's German Legion out here, and with their rifles, they were doing tremendous damage to the units out here, and then that kind of I was kind of threatening both sides in the central position where I could bounce back from one side or the other to attack either the Sixth Corps or elements of the Second Corps. Here you can see back behind the line where the Belgians used to be. The British line has bent back, so it's almost parallel with the Brussels Highway. And this area here where the crossroads is sort of this severe sunken road, so it's impassable to anything other than skirmish units. Um, so so that's kind of how I was defending that. So we just kind of the line bent back as we went along. And here you can see once again, this is a better picture, kind of showing the French middle guard and young guard all out of supply. I'm not out of supply, but out of command. And when that happened here, I think this is the last turn of the game. I pushed a bunch of skirmishers up to shoot them and do more damage. So a lot of the guard was really, really badly damaged. A lot of the battalions were at half strength. And as I said, 3 or more had been eliminated. And here we can see over on this side the Prussians coming in, and at a certain point, we'd achieved cavalry superiority over on the east side of the map. As the Prussians came in, they had so many more cavalry that then the British could send their cavalry off to support the I guess it would be their right, and to counter the cavalry that was over there backing up the Second Corps. So that's what was up with that. Here's another picture. Yeah, we can see more and more of the Prussian reinforcements coming in. And then here's actually Prussian cavalry. We had a big series of cavalry charges over on this side. And you can see a few of the little holdouts of the Hanoverian Landwehr doggedly holding on. And so, don't write them off too early. They're tougher than they look like. Here's a picture of our losses. So you can see there are 3 these are the chasseurs of I think they're the chasseurs of the middle guard. And there's actually 4 battalions that were eliminated entirely. And then a fair amount of French batteries and leaders. And then here's all the stuff that was killed on the Allied and Prussian side. So most of the Allied losses here are all their allies. So Hanoverians and Dutch and Nassauers, and then any of the British units lost are companies, so they don't count against your, morale level. And so, for the most part, the given just how things were, um, the, uh, the French were not going to win. It was tipping against them at that point. And you can see, yes, it was the 440 turn that we wrap things up. Here's another picture kind of overhead where that critical sector was, where the guard coming in and making the attack kind of petered out. And so my recommendation would be, if you're going to be doing something like this, you want to send in one of the standard corps first. So you're going to send the first corps in, or you're going to send the second corps in. They're going to grind up and destroy all of the Allies' sort of, buffer units, like the Dutch Belgians, like the Hanoverians. And then when you send the guard in, then all that's left to try to stay or hold are the British. And for the most part, their battalions are pretty small. And so it doesn't take too much to beat them up. And so you just have to kind of work on kind of grinding through the British allies, and then once that buffer is ground down, then you come in and you hit with the old guard. And so when they came in with the old guard and everything else, the entire guard, I was worried because I thought for sure they would just steamroll me. But the Dutch Belgians and the Brunswigers and everybody else, they did a surprisingly good job of slowing things down. And then here's a fun final look at what's going on over on the west side of the map, where you've got the Second Corps kind of all lined up, and we had a big firefight going on here with the various and sundry units. So that's kind of it. Let's see. I don't know that I've got anything else. Nope, that's about it. So, all right, cool. So that should take care of things. I hope that you folks have enjoyed this. I'm glad to see that the live stream is working. We played Prague on Sunday, and I couldn't get the live stream to work, and it kept crashing. And then we had our Austerlitz game on Monday, and I tried to do the live stream, and it crashed as well. And so I had to talk to the internet service provider company and everything else, go around circles to try to get things figured out. And found out that it wasn't a problem on their fault. It was having something to do on our end. So I was able to kind of get things fixed. So we will be having a tactics talk on Saturday, this coming Saturday, at 5 p.m. Pacific time. So that's 8 p.m. on the East Coast. So tune in for that. We're going to be talking about the different national, strategies or tactics that you would use for the Austrians versus the Prussians 1807 or 1806 Prussians in 1813. So some of the different national character for the different battles. And so if you're interested in that, tune in this coming Saturday for Brennan and I to chat about that. And then if there's anything else, go ahead and post questions or comments in the comment area below this video. And I hope everybody has a terrific time.